Today on Hands On Photography, I got an effect that's just going to make your mind go, nah, I'm kidding. It is actually a disintegration effect that we're going to create. Good old Photoshop is going to help us out. Y'all stay tuned.
This is TWiT.
Well, hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Pruitt, and this is Hands On Photography here on TWiT TV. I hope y'all are doing well. I'm unbelievable as always. This is the podcast where I like to sit down and share with you different tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer as well as a better post processor. I'd like to say welcome to the folks that are finding this show for the very first time. I appreciate you hopping in and giving us a shout and letting us know that you're here and sharing the show out with other folks. Now, while you're here, make sure you hit the subscribe option in whatever podcast application you're enjoying this on. Particularly if you're on the Apple Podcast side of things, while you're there, go ahead and hit the ratings and give us a star rating there. 5 stars are totally fine by me. And you can also type in a nice little comment and feedback or remarks right there as well. Doing that will help push us up in the ratings and help, Apple sort of spread the show and recommend it to other folks curious about getting better at photography and post-processing. Also, if you're just curious about any of our other subscription options, head on over to our website, twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP for Hands On Photography, and you'll see all of our subscription options there, including our awesome YouTube channel. Thank you all for the continued support. So now let's go ahead and get started with this week's show. Okay, today I want to talk about an interesting effect called the disintegration effect found in it's a tool that you can use. Well, it's not really a tool, but it's a way that you can do this with your photos inside of good old Photoshop. When you think about the disintegration effect, usually you'll see it inside of movies, something like Marvel's, Avengers? Yeah, Marvel's Avengers or any of those action movies where people are doing some shape shifting and, they'll just sort of explode into particles and float away, or they'll have a bunch of particles come together and make a shape. That's pretty easy-ish to do inside a video. It's just more time consuming than anything. Same goes for photography. You can do that same type of effect with your photographs. It's just they don't move, but you get the idea. You can use those particles and that disintegration effect to just give a different look and give a little bit of a more dynamic feel and look to your photos just by painting those in. In doing so, I'm going to walk you through basically reviewing some previous episodes, in particularly layer masks are pretty prominent in this episode. Layer masks is something we talked about, I believe it was episode 12, where I had a lot of fun with Mr. Victor. I can't remember if it was episode 12 or not, but he'll know for sure. He'll probably pop it up on the screen right now. He and I had a lot of fun actually wearing masks there in TWiT Studios. That was a fun day, Mr. Victor. I miss hanging out with you, brother. But yeah, we're going to talk about layer mask, and we will also talk about Photoshop brushes. I talked about Photoshop brushes previously because you have your default ones, but you can use special brushes other than just a regular paintbrush to create different effects and different moods and things like that. So without any further ado, let me just go ahead and switch on over to my screen here in Photoshop. Okay, so on the screen, you'll see an athlete that's been running and training, and that athlete is my hard-headed son. I'll just say it. That's my son. He was having a workout one day, and I went out to the field with him and took the camera and just snapped some photos. And I took this photo, but I thought it would look better with just a little bit of a special effect on it, just to give it a different look and feel. And that is this whole disintegrated effect that you see here. If you zoom in, it looks like little particles are coming off of him as he's racing across the screen. And if you look at the right-hand side of Photoshop, you'll see a couple of different layers there. We have the main layer, we have our liquid effect layer here, and then we have a color layer, which is the background. And I'm going to walk you through recreating this image here in a different tab of Photoshop. So let's open that up. So this is what the original image is. And the first step in creating this effect is figuring out what your subject is, figuring out how you want to really make the effect work for your subject matter. So I already know the subject of this image is my hard-headed son there in the black t-shirt or tank or ripped off t-shirt, whatever it is he's wearing. Photoshop has some interesting AI tools that allows you to do a selection pretty easily and pretty quickly with just a click of a button. If you click W on your keyboard, it takes you up to the different selection tools here on the upper left corner. But in addition to that, at the top menu, there's a button that says Select Subject. I'm just going to click that. It's a lot easier than trying to draw a selection. And as Photoshop is thinking, it does its little magic and creates a selection with a little bit of marching ants around the subject. But unfortunately, it looks like it grabbed a couple other things that I don't really need in this image. And you can get a better visualization of the selection by pressing Q on your keyboard for the quick mask. And everything that's in red is what's hidden away. So everything in color is what Photoshop has actually selected. And as you can see, this little sign has been selected here right above his hand. And it's a little simple mistake Photoshop made. No worries, we can fix that. So hit Q again to get rid of that quick mask. And I'm going to zoom in on the screen a little bit and move it around. And I'm going to fix that selection here just by holding down Alt or Option on my keyboard, Option if you're on Mac. And you just brush away the stuff that you don't want selected, and hopefully it goes back and selects the proper objects in the scene. And it looks like it did that time. And if you want, you can really dive in and fine tune the selections, you know, like even around the hair and things like that. Just to keep this podcast somewhat shorter, I don't want to fine tune it too much. I just want to, you know, knock out a couple things here, like his hair. Photoshop did a good job trying to select the edges of his hair, but I don't need it to do that good of a job this time because I'm going to do a bit of a disintegration effect and none of that selection is going to matter. So we'll just do it like that and we are good to go, right? Yeah, that's pretty good. There we go. So everything looks fairly fine as I just sort of scrub through here and take a look. And again, just do the Q on the keyboard. There, I have a decent selection. So now that we have our selection, what we need to do is isolate the subject from the background there by basically putting the subject on its own layer. We're actually going to do that twice. We're going to put the subject on its own layer 2 times. Easy way to do that is to just duplicate the layer while that selection is active. And then all you have to do is just go to your keyboard and press Control J. And it will duplicate that layer and it will only put our subject on the layer. And since I said I want to do this twice, I'm going to do Control J one more time. And that gives me 2 layers here on the right hand side. And both of them are layers of just the subject by himself. Okay. So first things first, let's organize our layer panel here just a little bit. I don't do this particularly because I'm used to it, but I recommend when you first start out, rename your layers. Rename your layers depending on the project you're working on because it helps you keep yourself a little bit organized. So I'm going to rename this layer just by double clicking where it says layer 1. I'll call this liquid effect or heck, I'll just call it effect. That's what we'll do, effect. And then this top layer, I'll just double click where it says layer copy and just call it main, something like that. All right, so we're good to go. So to continue on, we're going to turn off our main layer. Just turn it off with the little eyeball, and we're going to select our effect layer. And this is where the fun is going to begin. So we're going to go up to our filter menu here at the top, and we're going to select liquify, or you can do the keyboard shortcut Shift Control X or Shift Command X on Mac. And it's going to open up a brand new interface. This is the liquify interface inside of Photoshop. And if you look at the upper left corner, there's a button called Forward Warp Tool or W on your keyboard. And this is essentially another type of brush. Okay. And if you look at the right side of this panel, you'll see that you can change the brush size and things like that. I particularly think about 220 pixels would be good for this. And all you want to do is take that tool and just click and drag out. And I'm clicking and dragging from left to right on my subject because I think that if I do it this way, I'm looking at my subject and saying, okay, they're going from right to left on the screen. And I'd like to have particles just sort of trailing off of the subject. So I want to give the particle effect something to work with by using this liquify option. So that's why I'm brushing it away the way I am here inside of Photoshop. So let's go back, and I'm going to brush away again, you know, from left to right to where it looks like things are just sort of trailing off of our subject. And if you want to really, you know, dive into it more and dig into it, you can just continue to brush on it and extend it more and more. And quite frankly, I think you get a little bit better latitude by giving it some more to work with. It's a little bit easier. If you don't have enough, it costs you a little bit more time and a little bit more work to come back in and redo this stuff. But if you give it more and just use the power of layer mask, it's so much faster and so much easier. So I'm just going to brush away just on certain parts of it like this and just give it a bit of a disintegration effect here momentarily. So I'm going to brush away on the shorts there like that. Let's get his leg here. And even touch his shoe just a little bit, something like that. And then, heck, why not? Let's get a little bit of his body. So let's brush the body away some too, something like that. There we go. And we'll get this glove. So I'll shrink the brush down a little bit, and let's get the glove too. There. All right. So once that's done, you just click OK, and it's going to take you back into Photoshop. So now we have our weird looking subject on the screen on this background, looking pretty dadgum weird. So let's go ahead and add a better background. It's going to make a lot more sense as we start to really create the effect, and you'll be able to visualize it a little bit more. So we're going to add an adjustment layer. So we click on that adjustment layer icon and select solid color. And now this solid color is coming up as red, and I think it'll look better, you know, with something more of a yellowish or gold or something like that. So I'm just going to pick something in that hue, click OK. But this isn't doing us any good because this solid color is taking over the whole screen. Fortunately, it's a layer. We can just move it down. So just drag it down below our effects layer. So now we have that to work with. Good to go. Next, go back to your effect layer, make sure it's highlighted, and we're going to add a layer mask to it, but it's going to be different. This time we're going to add a layer mask to it that's already filled in with black paint. Again, referencing back to how layer masks work. When you're using a layer mask, if you paint black on the layer mask, it's going to reveal what's under the layer that you're currently working on. If you paint white on the layer mask, it's going to reveal whatever it is on the layer that you're working on. Got it? So let's go ahead and create a layer mask, but we're going to reveal everything that's underneath it by holding down the Alt key and then click the layer mask button, and it fills it in with black. So it is pretty much hidden everything. Okay. And I know that looks a little wonky, but that's okay. We're going to work with this. We're going to keep moving forward. Now let's go to our main layer here and turn that on, and you'll see we still have our subject matter intact without a problem. Okay, so don't stress out. So now let's go back to our effect layer and turn it on. And then we're going to paint onto our layer mask with white because it's already black. So let's start revealing what's actually on this layer by painting white. So I'm just going to give myself a decent sized brush and just paint away. And it brings them back without a problem. Yay. Good to go. Good to go. Okay, great. But Ant, what's the point of bringing this mess back that we just created? Okay, stay with me. I know, stay with me. We brought them back. So now we're going to go back and just erase the stuff that we really don't want to see. So I'm going to click X on my keyboard to go back to painting black onto this mask. So let's erase the stuff that we don't want to see. And we don't have to be precise with this. We're just going to brush away these edges like that. And just trust me on this. It's going to look weird at first, but just brush away those edges like so. Okay, so now we got it. This is where the fun begins with our additional brushes. So you go to our brush menu here at the upper left, and there's a little drop down arrow. Okay, we'll click on that, and you have a bunch of different brushes to choose from. here, there's a folder called Special Effects Brushes, and you can download these from Kyle Webster online. Usually they're in Photoshop though already. And this is a splatter brush from Kyle Webster. So I'm just going to click one time on that brush and then click off the screen. And you'll see I have a whole different type of brush cursor. Let me make that brush a little bit larger so you can see it. See how it just sort of looks like scatters and splatters and splotches? There's a reason for that. So now I'm going to decrease it down just a touch. And I'm going to bring back what's on this layer again by painting white. But instead of using my regular soft brush, I'm using this brush. So I'm just going to bring back what's there. But notice the brush is giving me a bit of a particle effect, like so. Very, very cool. And you just click and drag, and the brush will do most of the work for you. Like so. Very neat. And now, if we want to go back to our main subject and click on that layer and activate it, we have our main subject there, and you can begin to fine tune this even more using a layer mask on top of your main layer, just to sort of, find the balance between what should be particles and what should actually be your model. So I'm just going to click the layer mask button again here in the bottom right, and I will hide the things with black to show everything that's down below it. So if I brush across his arm right now with the black brush, it's going to start to disintegrate, bringing through more of that bottom layer like that. And you just fine tune it and play around, and you switch between the two different layers and the two different layer masks. And again, remember, if you're on the effects layer, you want to make sure you're painting with white because it's already filled in with black. And you just fill it in as you see fit, and you just zoom in and really fine tune it. And I'm going to fine tune this a little bit. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. Mr. Victor is going to start fast forwarding right now as I just zip through this real quick. Stand by. All right. And there you have it. That's pretty much it. You can just continue to work on the images, to make sure it works for whatever your composition is. And again, I could probably do a little bit more on this, just fine tuning here and there. But again, I don't want to take up all of your time with today's episode, but that is the gist of it. That is how you go from creating just a simple, taking a simple photograph like this one and turning it into something that has a bit more dynamic feel and motion to it by adding a special effect, the disintegration photograph effect. All right, that is it. Thank you all so much for watching this week's episode of Hands On Photography. I appreciate all of the continued support. If you would like to leave some feedback or just give me a shout out, you can shoot an email to hop@twit.tv if you're interested in sending images for me to critique on air or just in general, or have some feedback or just have some questions about something. You can send that email and those images as well. If you want me to use your images on air, or if you're fine with me using your images on air, you must say so in the message giving me your written consent, because I'm not going to share it if I don't have your consent. That's just how this goes. That's just how I roll. Make sure you're giving me a follow on social media. You can follow me on Instagram. I am ant_Pruitt there. And as well on Twitter, I am ant_Pruitt. Give me a follow. Give me a shout out. Let me know what you're working on. And I enjoy interacting with people on social media. It's been a lot of fun talking to all of you. And again, continue to share the show out with others. It really does help grow the community. Thanks so much for all of the support. Just hitting that share button really does help me out. It means a lot. All right, folks, that is going to do it for this week. Thank you again for all the support. Thank you again for Mr. Victor for making me look and sound good. Now, you all safely continue to create and dominate. Y'all take care.
If you like Android with a heavy dose of fun and entertainment, then you're going to love All About Android. It's me, Jason Howell, along with my co-hosts Ron Richards and Florence Ion. Every Tuesday, we discuss the news items that matter most, the hardware and devices that are running Android, and the apps that run on top of them. Plus, we answer your email each and every week. That's All About Android on TWiT.tv.